Then the world-honored one gradually moved onward and arrived at the banks of the river Narendra in the grove at Uruvela. At that time in the country of Magadha, there were 3 brothers called Kassapa, who were all held in high esteem by the people. Kassapa of Uruvela was attended by 100 disciples, Kassapa of Nadi stood at the head of 300 disciples, and Kassapa of Gaya was accompanied by 200 disciples. They wore matted hair and were all devotees of fire worship. The world-honored one went to the place of Kassapa of Uruvela and asked for a night's lodging in the fire chamber. Kassapa brought up the danger from the poisonous dragon that lived in the fire chamber and refused the request. But the world-honored one persisted and finally entered the chamber. That night, flames spewed out of the windows of the fire chamber. The people were concerned for the welfare of the poor ascetic inside. The next morning, the world-honored one put that poisonous dragon into a bowl and showed it to the people. Kassapa was amazed by the loftiness of his virtue and power but continued to think that this mendicant was inferior to him. The world-honored one remained in the fire chamber and repeatedly manifested divine powers. One evening, a host of gods assembled there to hear the teaching, and because of this, the forest of Uruvela glittered with the light of the gods. Another day, he brought back the fruits of a distant world, and because of this a sweet fragrance filled the grove. On still another occasion, because of the power of the world-honored one's teaching, firewood would not split apart, fire would not burn, dry dirt appeared from water, and a lake was born in a place without water. Kassapa marveled at the power of the world-honored one's teaching but still thought,
"This mendicant is not my equal."
The world-honored one, observing that the time had ripened, admonished him.
"Kassapa, you are not an arhat. You have not discovered the path that leads to becoming an arhat. Your teaching is not the path that leads to becoming an arhat."
Kassapa was stunned, and on his knees he bowed down at the Buddha's feet and vowed to become a mendicant with the world-honored one as his teacher. The world-honored one accepted him, his 2 brothers, and their 1,000 followers as disciples. The world-honored one thought,
"Now, for the first time, the moment has come for me to realize the promise that I made to King Bimbisara."
Together with the 3 Kassapas, who were regarded as the wise elders of Magadha, and their 1,000 disciples, he traveled toward Rajagaha. He climbed up a hill in Gayasasa, and gazing at the fires of the city of Rajagaha that flickered in the distance, he expounded as follows.
"Disciples, everything is burning. How is everything burning? Disciples, both the eyes that see and the things that are seen, both the consciousness that sees and differentiates and the sensations that result from this act are burning. In the same way the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind, they're objects of consciousness, and the differentiations and the sensations that occur there are all on fire. Disciples, with what fire are they aflame? They are aflame with the fire of greed, the fire of anger, and the fire of ignorance. They are aflame with the fire of birth, old age, illness, and death, and with the fire of anxiety, grief, pain, suffering, and anguish. Disciples, if the followers of this teaching, seeing and hearing thus, become weary of all things, they will free themselves from passion and give birth to the wisdom that realizes that I have attained release. They will know that birth has come to an end. I have accomplished the pious practice. I have realized that which I had to realize. From this moment forward, there will be no more delusive births. Disciples, there are 5 desires. Each possesses an attractive, charming appearance and the power to seduce and stimulate. The 5 desires are for the forms seen by the eye, the sounds heard by the ears, the scent smelled by the nose, the taste savored by the tongue, and the tactile sensations felt by the body. All mendicants who drown in these 5 desires and remain blind to their evil and who are ignorant of the path that leads one away from such desires are described as people who are immersed in misfortune, are beset with evil, and have fallen into the trap devised by Mara. They are like forest deer that have stepped into a trap and have fallen in. People say of them, these deer have fallen into a trap devised by the hunter and are unable to escape. Disciples, if they see the evil of these 5 desires, know the path that leads them away, and are practicing that path. Mendicants will be described as people who are not immersed in misfortune, and who do not fall into traps devised by Mara. They are like the forest deer that have not fallen into the hunter's trap and are able to run away when the hunter approaches. Disciples, a deer of the forest is able to roam around freely in the forest and the mountains, and peacefully rise and lie down. because he dwells in an area where the hunter is unable to penetrate. In the same way, when disciples practice meditation, they are called people who have blinded Mara and who have escaped those areas that are assaulted by Mara. In their walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, they are filled with confidence and are at peace. Disciples. When I was still a bodhisattva who had not attained enlightenment, I thought thus, what is worldly happiness? What is misfortune? How can I escape this misfortune again? I thought, in this world, it is happiness that gives rise to pleasure and joy. The fact of this world being a world of impermanence, suffering, and change is a misfortune. If, in this world, one restrains oneself and abandons greed, one escapes this world. Disciples. I sought worldly happiness, and having attained it, I probed for its source. Again, I sought worldly misfortune and probed for its source. Again, I contemplated the path that leads to release from this world, and having attained it I probed for its source. Disciples. When I in this way realized the true nature of worldly happiness, misfortune, and the release from both, I attained supreme enlightenment. Now my mind is unshakable. The wisdom that this is my final birth, I shall not be born again arose within me. Disciples. If happiness did not exist in the world, people would not become attached to the world. Because there is happiness in the world, people become attached. If misfortune did not exist in the world, people would not become weary of the world. Because there is misfortune in the world, they grow weary of the world. Again, if the Dharma that teaches the path to release from the world did not exist, people would not find release from the world. Because such a Dharma exists, they are able to find release from the world.
Hearing this teaching, the 1,000 disciples freed themselves from attachment and gained enlightenment.